Mexico City Grand Prix 2025 Race Notes. Sabrina's Race Notes. Number 1. Ollie Bearman and Haas double points. This was a race where Haas really showed up, particularly with Ollie, but also with Esteban holding off those behind him to make Ollie's P4 result happen. The car was where it needed to be for such a tricky circuit when it comes to development and setup. Team calls and decision-making were on point, and we saw a rookie who demonstrated that last year's call-up and this year's investment in him was well-founded by Team Haas and Ayo Komatsu. Watching Ollie's dad rejoice and hearing Ollie say he didn't expect to battle Max this early in his F1 career shows that this young rookie can bring it. Now the car and racer need to be consistent. Time will tell. Number 2. Gabriel Bortoletto's hard-earned P10. Gabriel fought his way to P10 when you consider the mental fortitude needed after a not-so-great qualifying to put in the work like he did with the challenges that this circuit presented, along with the resulting traffic and crashes ahead of him. It gives much-needed context to this final points position. His overtake of Hajar was excellent. Number 3. DNF, Alonso and Aston Martin. I think the worst DNF in my mind was Alonso and Aston Martin. We had others, of course, but this one stands out, likely because I'd finished listening to interviews of Enrico Cardile and Andy Cowell, which made me very hopeful about Aston's technical horizon. This circuit might simply not be suited to their car. Unfortunate. I hope they're wrapping their brains around how to fix this for future races. Number 4. Max Verstappen, rules mastery. Again, Max shows himself as an amazing racer, not just in the technical aspects, but in the knowledge. He knows the rules. He knew when all the chaos was around him exactly how far he could go and what he needed to do to preserve his position without incurring a penalty. I don't believe that happens simply in the moment. This is someone who has taken the time to digest the rules to the point that he knows just how far to push it and does so within split seconds. That's the wiliness of a champion. That's the wiliness of a racer. That's wiliness we don't see all that often. I feel like I'm saying this every week now. He's a generational talent. Number 5. Lando Norris, commanding performance. Excellent drive for Lando. I mean, a 30-second lead? Come on. Amazing. Lando handled that circuit so well all weekend long. I'm happy to see him have such a successful weekend. He needed this, and I'm glad he got it. I hope he can continue to build the momentum. As to the booing, and my memory tells me this has happened to Max multiple times as well, I find it in poor taste. Most of us viewing have never and are unlikely to ever get in a Formula One car, let alone race. We're not putting our lives on the line and working every day to be and maintain ourselves as premium athletes. Have respect for all drivers. That doesn't mean rooting for them. Your silence speaks volumes, probably louder than your boos. I've heard some ask the question, is there more toxicity in the sport than in yesteryear? And to me, that's irrelevant. The volume or frequency doesn't matter. It's that it's happening at all. We don't have to be fans of every driver, but we should respect every driver. Number 6. Oscar Piastri, adaptation challenges. He's not out, but he is experiencing a momentum issue. I do wonder what about the car may have changed. If Oscar had been in clean air, I feel like we would have a clearer data set in understanding whether it's him, the car, or both. Because if he had been in clean air, I want to believe we'd have seen similar prowess as Lando, which then makes me examine qualifying and the rest of the weekend more than the Grand Prix race itself. What happened during those other sessions? How has his side of the garage set up the car and this race weekend in context with those that have preceded it? Right now, Oscar has a lot on the line, and yes, maybe the pressure is getting to him, but I just don't think that's the case. He's a cool cucumber. That's what we've seen of him his entire time in F1. He is so close to achieving the dream. He's had some bad weeks, but I think he has the mental fortitude to recover and reset. And if anything, I want to believe he has the inner resilience to come back and fight. All that said, I found this noteworthy when I read Chris Medland's reporting. Oscar acknowledged that he's had to drive very differently in the last couple of weeks, which has been strange for him to process. He's been driving the same way all year, but recently, the car, tires, and something has required a quite different driving approach, and he hasn't fully adapted to that yet. He's tried adjusting, and hopefully the data will show whether those changes were effective. So maybe Oscar is having to adapt to unforeseen circumstances after a long tenure of confidence and consistency within his car. That would rattle most people. But again, I want to believe if there's anyone who can put his nose down, silence the noise, and figure it out, it's Oscar. So don't count him out just yet. Number 7, Lewis Hamilton. Penalty consistency questions. Lewis's penalty feels harsh in the context of chaotic moments and other incidents that seemed more problematic but didn't receive penalties from the stewards. I have to wonder about the rules application here. Did his behavior truly necessitate 10 seconds? 8. Charles Leclerc. Penalty inconsistency. Charles should have gotten a penalty. As much as we all know I root for him, he should have gotten a penalty. And each day since the race, I've been a bit perplexed that at no point did any of the other teams raise the issue. I have to believe the complete chaos regarding Turn 1 enabled him to fly under the radar. Number 9. Liam Neeson and the on-track near miss with marshals. I'm baffled that we didn't see the near miss with the two marshals during the broadcast. If it was shown, I truly missed it in possibly any of the commentary, but I don't believe I did. This surprises me for 2 reasons. First, the judgment called to keep this from the broadcast audience, the preponderance of viewers. Why? I realized there was a lot of activity on the track, but there were lulls. This incident was valuable to all of us. Second, it shows the impact of race control's decisions. If anything, it might have colored people's thinking when it came to the final 2 laps and race control's decision-making at that time. What do I mean? If race control were following proper procedure, the likelihood of such an incident theoretically should not have happened. But for some reason it did. Having been rattled, I would imagine everyone involved in race control at that point knew they were on notice, under scrutiny, and likely a bit on edge. That would be totally human. Now, flash forward many, many laps, and you have Carlos's car issues and again a decision that race control needed to make. Even if the 2 events are not technically linked, they are separate incidents, I can't help but wonder if there might have been more of an emotional or mental connection which impacted their decisions in those final laps. Number 10. VSC and race control decision making. In the moment, as a broadcast viewer who is enjoying the last laps and expecting some battles between various drivers when the yellow came out and then VSC, I'll be truly candid. I was on high alert and suspicious. But I told myself, I don't have all the information, and as more information came out that day and the days since, I have to say I've had empathy for race control. This is the struggle of race control, high-stakes decision-making within a complex rule framework. For those who are casual viewers, it can feel hard, especially in a culture which encourages us to question institutions, and this institution has a history of controversies. It just felt suspect. And when you couple that with the emotion of cheering for specific drivers, you can easily believe that something is being done nefariously. On one hand, we should always be suspect. On the other, we need to realize as spectators, via broadcast or in person, we don't have all the information and aren't operating in a pressure cooker with millions of dollars on the line. Why do I say this? Many online latched onto where Carlos's car ended up and what seemed to be an issue of a clear and safe track. But when you learn that it wasn't simply where Carlos was located behind the barrier with minimal distance past the line, but reports of his engine smoking and concern of fire, you can understand why race control took the action out of caution. Couple that with the earlier incident with Liam and the marshals on track, I can see why race control might have been cautious. The pressure is hard and real. Unlike other sports, these calls can have true safety, life and death implications in split seconds. In this modern era, we are not accustomed to some of the tragedies that the sport has experienced and learned from. And as much as the sport is technically complex, there is a regulatory complexity that in the moment of emotion, we can forget. There are factors, elements that when present will trigger analytical frameworks for race control to walk through, sometimes out of an abundance of caution. This lack of understanding is especially true for non-racer spectators, individuals who haven't grown up within the motorsport industry or race themselves. We might unintentionally compare and contrast motorsport decision-making with sports that are much more accessible and not nearly as high stakes and feel our instinct and judgment to be right. But we have to remember that when you get to this level of motorsport, everyone who is seeking to conduct a fair and safe race should have more experience under their belts when it comes to these types of decision makings. They should have been exposed to racing at different levels and spent time learning about what is safe and fair. Does that mean they'll make perfect decisions? Absolutely not. Are their decisions open to investigation and review? For sure. That's the appeal process. Will that lead to yellow flag VSC race endings? Quite possibly. Do I like that? No, I don't. But I also don't want to see the strides in safety deteriorated because we become accustomed to the sense of safety with an inherently dangerous sport. A dovetail from this thought is that I know there has been a discussion of consistency when it comes to rules, specifically stewards' decisions, whether we should have paid full-time stewards or continue with the volunteer system, which recently launched an official training program. But here's the thing. Motorsport in general relies heavily on volunteers. I can make the argument for and against paid stewards, but I think the main thing to keep in mind is that it's the same issue in any rule system, be it court or motorsport. You have rules and those who are interpreting and making the decisions, and they will be imperfect humans, and that we may agree or disagree with them. In court, there may be a judge or jury, judges who are compensated, have lifetime appointments, or are elected, juries who are composed of thoughtful and deliberate people, or those annoyed that they have to perform a civic duty. No system will be perfect and without problems. The question, I think, is whether within the system we have, can we articulate why and how a decision came to be that satisfies a reasonable person to believe it was fair and just? And for those who believe Max was stymied, his own post-race comments noted that sometimes the safety car has been very nice to him in his career as well. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's how it goes in racing. He acknowledged that it would have been fun to race to the end, maybe a bit more for him than for Charles defending, but it would have been a fun ending for everyone to watch. I say all this and acknowledge I don't like ending on a yellow or a VSC. The possibility felt deflating at the moment. I also felt that having it in those near final laps took some wind out of the excitement as well. I was excited to see the possibility of last lap battles, but I also don't want race control potentially allowing drivers or marshals to be placed in dangerous situations when there is reason to believe that they could be harmed. It's a delicate balance. As a spectator, either in the stands or at home, I don't always have the full picture. Dick's race notes. Hi Sabrina, here are my notes from Mexico City. Number 1. Lando Norris put together a perfect weekend just when he needed to do it. He dominated qualifying and then he dominated the race, winning by over 30 seconds. His performance this weekend was a real masterclass under enormous pressure. Number 2. Meanwhile, his teammates struggled again with a car whose handling has mysteriously changed. Having put together several difficult weekends now, including what happened in Baku, Oscar is now back in second place, something that I thought would be impossible. But here we are with Lando back in the lead of the championship. Number 3. Max finally struggled on a weekend, but wound up finishing a very strong third, something that he was actually pretty happy with because after qualifying, he did not feel it was possible to finish on the podium. Number 4. Ferrari had another good race, perhaps surprising themselves just a little bit with second place by Charles and a fighting performance from Lewis, who looked very strong until he was assessed a 10-second penalty as part of the chaos at the beginning of the race. And number 5. In many respects, the star of the show was definitely Ollie Bearman. He did a fantastic job all weekend, putting in an exceptional qualifying effort, followed by a terrific start of the race, and then maintaining his position to finish a very well-deserved 4th place.